My fiance's best friend ruined my life. This is how we stood up for each other and cut off the toxic relationship. My fiancé has the biggest heart. He would literally give you the shirt, pants, and hat off his body if you asked for it. He's a recovering people pleaser, and I get it because I also used to be a people pleaser. We've been together for 5+ years. A few months ago, I started picking up on his best friend making some not-so-nice comments towards me. I'm trying to be vague, but let's just say this friend is the type to read who in the room would be most affected by being picked on. Then, he picks and picks and picks on them until they can't take it anymore. Nobody ever really holds him accountable for this, and unfortunately, I have somehow become his favorite target. I tried to put up with these comments, but it started getting really elaborate. The friend would make up lies about me, saying things I never said. He once called me in front of all our friends, my fiancé included, just to yell, "You're a bad friend," into the phone and then hang up. This specific incident was particularly bizarre. He and my fiancé had been ding-dong ditching my apartment while visiting my best friend, his bride-to-be, who lives nearby. I heard the door a third time and ignored it, assuming it was them again. Then the friend called me, speakerphone from my best friend's phone, claiming a mutual friend from the building had been knocking, looking for them for support. When I tried to jokingly call them out for the earlier ditching, that's when he yelled the "bad friend" line and hung up. I was really, embarrassingly distraught by this. My best friend was there. She kind of defended him, and after we sat in silence for a while, she left an hour or two later. I later found out from my fiancé that all our mutual friends, including him, were in the car and heard that conversation. Everyone felt tense, but nobody said anything to the friend. It wasn't a joke and wasn't taken as one by anyone involved, not just me. Apparently, after the mutual friend who was knocking eventually found them, the friend called me solely to make me feel bad for not opening the door. I could even hear the knocking friend quietly saying, "Hey man, not a big deal, it's fine," in the background, but no one else spoke up. Trust me, I know these examples might seem like things that shouldn't be getting to me, but this guy is poking every spot he can on me until he finds one that gives him a reaction, and then he digs and digs. It's hard not to be hurt or triggered when his literal intention is to hurt and trigger me. There's so much more to it that I can't share because I'm trying to be somewhat anonymous. It started having an effect on me and my mental health, and I ended up having a full breakdown where I told my fiancé how much this was all starting to hurt me. The first time I broke down over this, he said he would talk to his friend about teasing or messing with me less. He then told me his friend was sorry, that he'd be keeping an ear out for any other comments, and that he would jump to my defense if it happened again. A few weeks later, I had a second breakdown over all this. The situation itself was hitting a very specific childhood trauma trigger for me. He admitted that his friend hadn't actually apologized. He had actually said he was sorry I was too sensitive to understand his humor. At that point, I told my fiancé my friendship with this person was over and that I wanted zero contact from here on out, even if it meant I had to miss out on events and parties that I'd otherwise love to go to. He agreed with me that all of this was being done with the intention to get a rise out of me. He also agreed that even if we tried to get through to this friend, he's so diabolical that we could never fully trust him not to treat me poorly, at least some of the time. My fiancé kept asking if this meant he had to quit the project they're working on. I told him I would never tell him he had to because I know how much it means to him. This project they've been a part of together for over a decade means the universe to him. And that's the biggest factor in all of this. He'd more than likely have to give that up if he cut ties completely. But in all honesty, the fact that this person is treating me so poorly that I'm having physical stress reactions, yet it wasn't initially enough for him to want to cut this person off, does hurt a lot. The fact that it isn't a deal breaker for him is probably always going to sting a little. He's not confrontational at all, and I always knew that. My fiancé knows the behavior isn't sustainable and agrees with me that this friend is awful with the intention of being awful. But it's not about confrontation. It's about standing in my corner, and I can't spend the rest of my life with someone who isn't in my corner. This friend is getting married to my best friend in a few months, and we're both supposed to be in the wedding, but I really have no clue how. I get a literal knot in my stomach anytime his name is even mentioned now. Regarding my best friend, I have my own feelings towards what she's going through. I think she's being love-bombed and gaslit, and I've seen some proof of it with my own eyes. Since she was there for the bad friend comment and kind of defended him, I know she's so love-struck that she's probably going to choose him, and it kills me. I'm trying really hard to step back in a way that doesn't totally burn my bridge with her. In the end, when he gets that ring on her finger, I have a feeling he will be a different man to her, and she'll need support. I'll be there when she needs me. I have seen this friend one time since all of this came to a head, and he was so over-the-top nice to me that it came off as cocky. I had the second breakdown a few days afterwards because I realized I'm possibly going to spend the rest of my life on edge and on guard anytime this person is even somewhat in my vicinity, even if they aren't actively with me. I don't know how to come to terms with the fact that my fiancé was willing to lie to me on his shitty friend's behalf, but he wasn't willing initially to stand in my corner against him. I think it'll always hurt. This guy was supposed to be the best man in our wedding, and as a result, we haven't been talking much about wedding plans. I think if he's still planning on this friend being in our wedding, I may have to call it off for my own sanity, and that sucks so bad. This is eating me alive. I love my fiancé so much. I love his big heart and the way he loves all of it, but he loves some truly wretched people, and I don't know if he'll enforce any boundaries with those people before the lack of boundaries becomes too much for me to handle. Right before I met my fiancé, I had just cut out a vast majority of people, including one of my closest friends and a blood relative, for making me feel the same shitty, small way my fiancé's friend makes me feel. It's so much harder to burn those rotten bridges when they're not yours to burn. Trust me when I say he holds himself accountable for his role in this. And we've had many in-depth conversations about how his friend will forever be this way so long as everybody in his life enables him to be. It's hard to cut someone off, even when they deserve it. I'm trying to show my fiancé as much grace as I can because I know how hard it is to give up on someone you always hoped would grow out of their awful behavior. I'm just hurt and hurting, and I just want whatever outcome to play out so I can stop feeling so guilty and awful all the time. I know this isn't going to go on much longer. I wanted to share this for those who encouraged me to put myself first. I want you all to know my partner absolutely came through and protected me in this. We spent all the time since my last post up until last week communicating, trying to find a resolution, and walking through how it got this bad. He took a lot of accountability for that. This is not a case of me giving in. He understands fully that this has only got so bad because it's never been handled correctly, and he had a major hand in that. There were so many more layers to this than a post ever could have conveyed. The bottom line is we are closer than ever. After a lot of talking, we decided on my partner sending a firm but not unkind message to his friend, explaining the behaviors, explaining that they were hurting his partner and that it needed to stop. He asked to write up the first draft, and we could go over it together to try to perfect it. The first draft my partner wrote was so spot on what I needed to read that it instantly shifted us into us versus the problem mode when we'd been stuck butting heads for weeks. He laid everything out so clearly and in ways that we hadn't discussed, so I know it came from him. We had to tone down a lot of the big emotions. We really, truly gave the message its best shot to address the situation without being hostile. We knew the response would be bad no matter what, but I don't think anything could have prepared us. This man went full scorched earth and blew up everything almost immediately. He insulted my partner. He told him these events didn't happen the way I claim they do. He demanded they meet up alone with a mediator. He even threatened to reach out to my partner's parents to fill them in, which is probably the moment we stopped taking his responses seriously. All of us are almost in our 30s. If once wasn't enough, he threatened it twice. We actually had to call them and warn them that he might be showing up at their place later this week and not to open the door. There's still a good chance he'll attempt it. My fiancé handled stepping down from their shared project as well as he could. He is going to find another project eventually, I know it. This has been so impossibly hard on both of us, but I know it's hitting him a bit more than me right now, and I'm making sure to prioritize him and remind him he can feel that pain and mourn what was. It's not an insult to me at all, if that makes sense. I know what this meant to him. He did give it up. I'm so sad he had to. But I'm grateful to him for putting his foot down. He's going to be okay. Just needs some time to grieve and process. We stayed respectful throughout all of this, which I feel good about. We didn't stoop to his level. We didn't insult anyone. We asked for basic human respect, and somehow it blew up spectacularly. In the end, we both received a massive wall of text from my now ex-best friend, fully backing up her man and telling her side of the story, which is so insanely far off from what actually happened that all I can do is laugh. We've been shifting from crying to being dumbstruck to just straight up laughing because of the absurdity. I went into this thinking she was brainwashed, but it turns out I was wrong. They're a perfect match. I wish them all the best. You know, I definitely went into this thinking about how victims of abusers often change their behavior, but I refused to set myself on fire to keep her warm. The things she said in her message about my partner are irredeemable. She can never be a part of our lives again after what was said, out of respect for me and my partner. Even if any part of me wanted to hold out hope for her, I hope this is a wake-up call for her, but it won't be me on the other line. I'll always have love for her, but it will be from a very large distance. Even if, by some miracle, we reconnect, we will never be as close as we once were without some intense conversations and a lot of growth, maybe not even then. I don't see that being the case for a very long time. I've made my peace with that. I am sending them one last message, setting the record straight, which my partner and I decided together was the best approach apart from just ghosting, before moving on from this entirely. I'm going to make it very clear this is done, zero contact indefinitely, and I will never look back. My partner and I both deserve way better friends, and we both see that so clearly now. I am so glad I learned my friend's true colors before we dropped $800 on a hotel for their wedding. Thank you to everyone who was kind. Not only did I put myself first in the end, but my partner did too. We're going to take this weekend in stride and process it all, grieve the friendships we once thought were forever. At the end of the week, we have a conveniently timed vacation to my partner's family cottage. I think we're going to come out of this stronger because we already feel it. Again, thank you to those who had something productive to say, and I've made my peace with all the rest. I guess if the guy does something else outlandish, maybe I'll update. But for now, this chapter is closed, and I'm so ready for it to start collecting dust. DNA confirmed I have an 18-year-old daughter living in the US. I don't know where to start, how to tell my family, or how to meet her. And yeah, I feel just as you would imagine, but it gets worse. She lives in the US. I'm in Europe. I don't know how to do this and really need advice. So, what happened is that months ago, I got a call from a US number. I didn't answer since I don't know anyone there. Then, it rang again the same day, so I answered, ready to yell at some scammer. A girl on the other side introduced herself and stated that she thought I might be her father. That was the first thing she said. Hi, my name is Jane, and I think you might be my father. Fake name, obviously. I told her I don't have any children and that she has the wrong number. But then she drops a name I haven't heard in, you guessed it, 18 years. Back around that time, I was in the US for a year on a job exchange with our sister company. I met a woman there, and we hooked up for maybe a few months. I remember buying condoms after meeting her, but I can't remember if we used them every time. Anyway, I gave her my non-US number, but never heard from her again. The girl on the phone asked me if my name is original poster's assumed name based on context, and I freaked out and almost hung up on her. She told me more about her mother, and I just sat there like an idiot. She'd found my name and number in her mother's diary, and now, as she turned 18, she wanted to contact me. She lives with her relatives now since her mother is unable to take care of herself for some reason. I still don't know the details there. She asked me if I'd be willing to do an ancestry DNA test, and even offered to pay for it. She ended by saying I should think about it, and asked if she could call me again. I just said, sure, and we hung up. I swear I was about to faint right there and then. The whole conversation lasted only like 5 minutes. I ended up taking the test, and we talked a few more times. The test took forever, but yesterday she sent me a screenshot of her profile matching 50% of mine. I mean, that's just it, right? We haven't spoken since, just messaged some. I lied and told her I've been busy and we'll talk later, which now makes me feel like an ass. Up until this point, I've kept it together, holding on to the thought that I'm probably not the dad, but now I can't deny it. It's probably been half my life since I last cried. I haven't told anyone this. I was kind of hoping the DNA test would come back negative, and then I wouldn't have to. How to even break this to my family? I just know they'll all want her number so they can call her, and then they would start flying over to see her or bringing her here. They're really pushy like that. My mom is going to freak out. I don't see my family more than a few times a year, but we'll all get together during Easter. Should I do it then, with all of them at once, or one at a time? I have a picture of Jane, but not much more info than what I've written here. I'm the youngest sibling, and now I suddenly have the oldest of the cousins in the next generation. And I never wanted kids at all. I just don't like them and hate being tied down. I even had a vasectomy since then. And that's the easy part. The real problem is what to say to Jane. Can some sane person give an example of what to say? I've promised to call her tomorrow. Has anyone discovered they have an unknown child? If so, what did you do? How did it go? How did you connect? What happened when you met for the first time? What did your family say? I'm a bit embarrassed by this, but is there any risk of me having to pay child support retroactively? I can probably afford it, but I don't really want to suddenly have something like 10% of my savings left overnight. Just guessing here. No idea what the actual sum would have been. I'm sure anyone here would consider that factor. Information suggests the limit might be 3 years back. I didn't know that. I can be an ass sometimes, but I'm not some monster. The money question was a question, not the question. And yes, I have had my number for a long time. Never had a reason to change it. Some seem to have the impression that I or my family are wealthy. This is not so. Knowing my family, they would probably want to rent a private jet and fly her here. But that was a joke commenting on their enthusiasm, not their actual means. No, I'm not wealthy either. When I wrote, I can probably afford it, but I don't really want to. I mean, I'd hate to lose a significant chunk of my savings unexpectedly. We had our first video call today, and it was a long conversation. I had a list of things to bring up, mostly from suggestions received, so I'm ever thankful for that. Most of it was quite personal for both of us, so I won't write it here, but it boils down to this. We both want to continue to stay in touch and get to know each other. We also want to meet at some point, even if we don't know when yet. Her family knows of me, and they will join a call in the future, so I can speak to them as well. I will hold off on telling my family for a while, but I will probably tell them one at a time. A while back, I made a post asking for advice. Back then, I had just had it confirmed by DNA that I had a daughter I never knew about. I called her Jane in the other post, so I will be here too. Jane is the result of me hooking up with a woman while I was in the US working. It was really interesting to read about others' experiences in the comments and DMs. It's crazy what DNA tests have done in recent times. Some wrote that Jane is probably just a kid looking for her roots, and you were absolutely right. I've been getting a steady stream of DMs since my last post. Most have been nice, just asking for an update. Then there were the absolute nutcases who couldn't read and told me to drown myself. Hi to you too. Jane and I continued to talk after my last post, mostly about her life, her mother, the family trees, etc. I never thought I would connect with her like I did. She's a very intelligent and mature young woman. My family knows now, and it went better than expected. Mom and sister still went a bit apes hit, but Dad knocked them out with a large club he always carries with him. To the nutcases, no, that last bit didn't actually happen. Funny thing, my brother-in-law actually distracted Mom by reminding her that she has made sweaters for all the other grandkids, but now she's way behind on one. All of them understandably wanted to call her, but my daughter, yes, it's pretty cool to be able to say that. And I had already planned to have that call the following day, and it went really well. We made introductions, explained everything that had happened, and that we planned for me to meet her by myself before anything. And guess what? We did meet. I flew over for a 10-day stay since I'm on leave, and she's working during the summer. That way, we could hang out in the evenings and weekends, and I could go full tourist during the day. It was surreal from the start. I landed at the very same airport I left from almost 2 decades ago, and she was there to meet me, together with her aunt. I can't describe with words what it was like to hug her for the first time. I'd seen her many times in video calls, but she was just so beautiful. I started crying. I met so many people in the first couple of days. I can't remember the names of half of them. I gave her a sweater from my mother, a hand-drawn family tree from my niece, and a gift I made myself, but I won't tell what that one was. While I still don't agree with the Georgia weather, I had a blast during the days just walking around town. I went to Jane's workplace almost every day and pretended to be a regular customer. We had lunch and dinners either alone or with the rest of her mother's side of the family. All of them were so nice and welcoming to me. I visited their house every day, but chose to stay at a hotel since I didn't want to be a bother or impose myself too hard on Jane's life. Obviously, Jane and I talked a lot about anything and everything, but mostly about her upbringing and her mother. I mentioned in the previous post that her mother wasn't able to care for Jane. I didn't press that subject much at first, but it was unavoidable after a while. I won't get into all the details, but her mother is sick and has lost some cognitive functions. She recognizes Jane and some family members well enough, others not so much. We went to visit the facility where she lives. Jane introduced me by name and not as her father. She sadly didn't recognize me, so I stayed in the background for the remainder of our stay. Seeing a woman not much older than myself in such a state was a somber experience. So yeah, that was me rambling a bit about what happened after my last post. There was obviously a lot more, but most of it is deeply personal and emotional, and I won't go through it here. I'm back home, and we are keeping communications open. I'm definitely going to fly Jane over here at some point when life allows it. But other than that, we have no specific plans for the future.